What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. It is your girl Crystal here, live and in the flesh. If you guys are new, thank you for stopping by. Feel free to click that like or subscribe button down at the bottom. I post random shenanigans all the time, and right now we're just on a wedding series because I am getting married in 9 months. I'm super duper excited, so that's just what we're on right now. If you guys are returning, thank you for coming back to my channel. I'm surprised people actually come and watch my videos because I like doing them, but sometimes I feel like I'm weird and people are like, "You're weird, Crystal." But yeah, it means a lot that you guys come and watch my video. So today's video is going to be 10 tips, you guys get it, tips, that I learned while planning my wedding. So if you guys don't know, I am the planner in the family. I plan everything from birthday parties to bridal showers to gender reveals, you name it. A family member is probably calling me to plan that. I am not a professional whatsoever. I'm just actually really good at doing this. Maybe I can make a profession out of it one of these days, but for now I just do it as a side gig. So yeah, I thought, why not plan my own wedding? I plan everything else, so why not plan this? But boy, was I in for a surprise. And that's not to deter anyone from doing it. Please, if you want to plan your wedding, do it. Just know that there is a lot that goes into it and it can become very stressful. So just make sure you pause and breathe throughout all the steps and you should make it out fine. I'm not at the finish line yet, but I think I'm doing pretty darn good. I'm super old school, so I wrote everything down in my handy dandy notebook. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking at the points that I made. So without further ado, let's jump right into this video. So tip number 1 is going to, pause. I don't know if I said these are in no particular kind of order. They're just, I wrote them down kind of as they came to me, and they're kind of all over the spectrum as far as it comes to wedding planning. Like, it's not like all the, like the beginning, it's just everything out my butt that I've encountered. So my first tip is a wedding email. Get one. Seriously, you don't understand how flooded your personal email is going to get until you start reaching out to vendors and they start reaching back, and it's just a lot. I didn't do this. I wanted to do this probably maybe about 2 months in, but I hadn't because there was just so much going on and so many vendors had already had my personal email. I was like, why switch now? I could have easily, I guess I could have easily done it, but I just chose to create a separate folder for all my wedding things, and I would just boop, pop them over. So that is an alternative for you if you don't want to create a separate wedding email, but I think it is a really great thing to do because it drove me insane to see that little notification keep going up that I have more emails and I have more emails and I have more emails. And when you inquire about a vendor, you're gonna get their response, right? And then let's say you don't reply. I don't know why. They will hit you again, like, hey, we haven't heard back from you. And they keep doing it. This didn't happen to me a lot, but there were a couple vendors that kept reaching out to me, and it was clearly I haven't responded. Why are you still replying? But that can happen. So like I said, you're gonna get flooded with so many emails. It's just so much easier to have everything nice and neat and compact in one place, and you can just go there when you're looking for those things, and it doesn't have to drive you insane, all those notifications being in your personal email. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening today. I think I'm slowly dying. It's okay. Tip number 2 is to have people RSVP. Like I said, this is in no particular order, so we're kind of jumping on the spectrum here, but having people RSVP is actually something that is super duper important. Now, if you're only needing people to RSVP for the wedding, that doesn't make it any less important, but you just really want to make sure people know to RSVP by that specific by the specific date that you need them to RSVP for. If you're doing other things earlier that you need people RSVP for, like you have a whole wedding party, you're going to do things from bachelorette parties, maybe bridal showers, and whatever else you plan to do. So you still need people to RSVP for certain things so that you can have a head count, so you know how many people you have to feed or room or whatever the case may be. So when people don't RSVP, it makes it super hard, especially when it comes down to your reception, because your venue needs to know how many people are showing up. You have to know how many people you need to feed, etc., etc. I mean, it even gets weird to like, you need to know how many restrooms you need to have so that everyone can get to the bathroom adequately. It's weird, but that is also something that you need to think about when you're planning a wedding. So make sure people RSVP by that date so that you're not stuck calling everybody who did not respond and say, hey, are you still coming? If so, how many people are you bringing? Or let me know if you're not coming, because like, I don't know, we don't know how to communicate anymore, and it's annoying. It's very annoying. So make sure you put an urgency on those RSVP dates. Or tip number 3 is cutoff times. Cutoff times are annoying, but depending on where you are, your wedding is going to have a cutoff time. It sucks. So because you know you have a cutoff time, what you want to do is make sure that you plan your wedding in like blocks. So the events that need to happen. So it's better to not plan everything down to a T, like time-wise, because let's face it, nothing in life ever happens on time. Why even stress yourself out about it? Just give yourself a chunk of time for everything. And that cutoff time really comes important to people that are drinking, because some people may be driving. Now, if you're shuttling everybody to and from, then that may not be something that you have to think about, but you do want to think about people drinking and driving, as well as you having time to relax and actually dance and enjoy the celebration that you spent all this time planning for yourself. Because before you know, you're going to blink your eyes and it's going to be all over. And it's so sad, but hey, that's just the way it works. So yeah, make sure you acknowledge your cutoff times, and make sure you plan things in chunks so you don't drive yourself crazy with the speeches and the cake cutting and the dancing and all those beautiful things that need to happen, but you don't want to have to rush into them because you feel like you're restricted on time. Tip number 4, and this was the biggest tip for me, was give yourself time. Like, it's okay. For me, I had to stop and breathe throughout a lot of the process of this wedding. I am very antsy. My anxiety is out of this world. And I got very caught up in the chaos, and that's not something that you want to do. So give yourself time for everything, like everything. It's okay to have a longer engagement. When you do that, you give yourself more time to save for a budget. You give yourself more time to look for venues. You just give yourself time in general to breathe. And it gives you more time to think about the style of your wedding, the mood, and sorry, I had to think about what I wrote down, the theme, as well as the little small details that go into it. If you're like me, you're gonna try to plan down to the teeniest, tiniest detail, and it's not always possible, but we're gonna try. So the more time that you have, it just gives you more time to get things done and to really sit down and think. Because when I first started planning my wedding, the theme is no longer the same of what's happening right now, and that's perfectly fine. But had I not had the time to really sit down and think about what I want, then I would have been having a completely different wedding. And I'm glad that I had that time to do that. It also allotted me time to save more money, which meant I could have more things that I want. So yeah, it's okay to give yourself time. Tip number 5 is to pick the top things that you want in your wedding and pay for those first. It is better to pay for the more expensive things right off the bat. You guys know what I mean. Because those really big things, like those must-have items, you want to get those out of the way. And then the rest of your budget, you can divvy it up between the other smaller things that you want or need. And then it gives you time to like weed out what you really don't need. So it's just better to knock out what you 100% want to have, like cannot have, like you have to have in your wedding, and just get those out of the way because it makes it more easy in the long run. Sorry, I just repeated myself and I don't know why. Tip number 6, delegate tasks to people who really want to help. That was a really big one for me because I like to do everything, like to have my fingers in everything. It drives me nuts if I can't do something, especially when it comes to my wedding, because I'm like, it has to be a certain way. It really doesn't, but in my head I was like, I want it to look a certain way, and if I don't do it, then it's not going to come out the way that I want it. And that's not necessarily true. It's really good to look at your your list of friends, and kind of go down and see who does what and who does what well, and see about them doing like tasks for you. Like, my grandmother is like, I want to make a cake. And so if my grandma's a great cake baker, why would I not allow my grandma to bake the cake for my wedding? Or if my dad used to be a chef, and so why would I not have him make the food for the wedding? Or just little things like that. If you have a friend, and maybe you don't want your friends list to do a task that's big, but there are other things that can be done, just helping get things set up on the day of, or tear down, which is another thing that you guys want to think about. I didn't put that tip in here because I haven't got there yet, but apparently you want to make sure that you have people there to tear down your wedding, and don't just assume that your family members are going to do it, because they're probably not. Anyways, let's get back to topic. You would be surprised how many people that that actually are really good at doing things. And I have to give it to my fiance, because he is a jazz musician, so he knows a bunch of people that were able to do a lot of things for us for the wedding, which is really cool, like DJ and band members and lighting, and just like all these little things that I didn't really think about. So look to your friends list before you go to a professional vendor, just because they might be able to help you out. Tip number 7, say no. Say no. It is okay to tell people no. I know it sucks, but it's okay. It's okay to be selfish. I know, I said it. Okay, whatever, it's out. I know that it's rude to be selfish, but I feel like for your wedding, it is 100% okay to be selfish. This is a celebration for you and your significant other, and anybody that has been invited and is actually coming is there to just witness this matrimony and be there in your celebration and have a great time with you. It is not for you to please your grandma or, your mom and other family members. It's okay to do that, but if it's something that you really do not want to do, just say no. And I know that is hard, because it's hard for me to tell my family no. But like I said, this is your day, and you shouldn't do something or have something at your ceremony or your reception that you really do not want. Because I feel like if you end up doing that, then you might possibly end up regretting certain aspects or certain parts of your wedding, and that's not okay. They're here to celebrate you, and I'm pretty sure they'll just get over it. Or at least I like to think they will. Tip number 8 is vendors. Book them early, because what you're going to realize when you start planning your wedding and looking for vendors, that things book up like way faster than you think. Like when I first started looking for vendors, I ran into a couple places that were like, well, we only book 5 weddings a year, and we've already booked our 3rd. So not only do you feel a sense of urgency to now book these venues, it just puts in your mind like, wow, I really don't have any time to like book anything. And that pressure is very, very frustrating. It's something that like really like put a lot of stress on me in the beginning, because it was like everywhere I turned, it was, I'm booking too late for the year, and I've got to push it, or I've got to hurry up and book things right now, that it's like I haven't even fully decided if this is something that I want. I felt like I had no breathing room, and I felt like I was very pressed to do certain things. And that's just because I got engaged in December of 2017. So here at the beginning of 2018, I'm trying to book a wedding for, wedding season of 2018, and it's too late. Like it was, well, we're in the beginning of the year, and a lot of the things for that year had been booked or mostly booked up. So that goes back to giving yourself time. Like it's okay to have a longer engagement. It's okay to push things back, but also remember to plan early. And along with booking things ahead, when it comes to booking your caterer, this is doesn't have to do with booking early, but this is something that I noticed, because I am having a small-ish wedding of 60 to 65 people. So when it came to me booking my caterer, when I was looking and I was inquiring, I would get a response like, oh, okay, it's $50 a plate, right? So for 60 people, $50 a plate is $3,000. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, that fits in my budget. But as you scroll and read the fine print, you'll see that they have a minimum number of people, and if you don't hit that minimum count of people, then you have to hit their dollar minimum, which a lot of times is $7,500. And I was like, what the $7,500 for some food? No, my bank account. I was just like, no, that was annoying. So that's another thing that you have to take into account, is that they do have catering minimums, which drove me nuts. And the way that I got around that was to have my dad, who used to be a chef, cook he's going to cook for the wedding. But the other thing is that not all places, not all vendors have a catering minimum, so just be careful to look out for those. And if it's over your budget, I would say maybe try a different restaurant or a different caterer that has the similar style food, or maybe just go with a different option. Or if you have time and you really want that place, at least you have time to, make sure you get that money, hence the bigger budget. Tip number 9 is to ask questions, and a lot of them. Don't feel like you're asking too many questions. I ask a lot of questions just because I have anxiety, and I'm like, well, what if this thing happens? And what if this small thing happens? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask them. It's okay. And a lot of times your vendors are probably used to those questions, generally, if they're wedding related, but that's important. Don't feel like you can't ask specific questions. But I said this earlier, but I was like, how many bathrooms am I gonna need for people? Because I have to use the bathroom, and I don't want to be standing in a line, and I don't want to make my guests stand in the line to have to use the restroom. That's an important question to ask. We're just gonna leave it at that question. You ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. Ask all the questions you want. You should be informed about what is happening, how things are going to happen at your wedding. That's important. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And my final tip is, you don't know what you're doing, so breathe. Really breathe. It's okay to stop, take a deep breath, relax, chill out. Ow, my hips. Oh. Yes, just breathe. I had to stop and meditate quite a few times throughout this journey, and it's because I drove myself insane. Because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to do it. I felt like I had no direction where I was trying to go. It was like every time I think I want one thing, then I have people saying, well, maybe you want to do this thing, and it just was a lot. And like I said, that's not to deter anyone from planning their own wedding. Do it, but stop and breathe and really think about the things that you want and the things that you don't want. That all those things matter. So it's okay. Your wedding is going to happen. You want it to happen. It is going to happen. You put that energy out there in the universe. You just have to treat yourself right. Don't get overwhelmed in the chaos and all the pressures, and it's a lot. It's a lot. I felt very weighted down during this process, and I'm still in it. I'm not at the finish line yet, but like I said, stopping, breathing, just pausing for a minute helped so much, because I was like a big old ball of stress and chaos in the beginning, and now I'm like, oh, okay, this thing needs to happen, or this can't happen, and that's fine. We're gonna work around it. But it's okay to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're gonna figure it out, So yeah, those are my 10 tips for planning your own wedding. If you guys liked it, then give me a thumbs up. If you guys have questions or want me to elaborate on anything else, or maybe do another video on something more specific, just leave a comment down there, and I will see it and get back to you. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!